Have you ever heard of the city of Pompeii? I find it really interesting that not a lot of people have heard of Pompeii because it has so many historical and amazing things about it for something so tragic that happened there. Pompeii was discovered in 600 BC and is located at the southern part of Italy. Pompeii became a prosperous trade center before Mount Vesuvius destroyed the city forever. I've always been really interested about Pompeii. I've watched a ton of documentaries. I've done a lot of research over it, so I know quite a bit about Pompeii. Pompeii is one of the most visited archaeological sites in the world, and due to its excellent state of preservation, it has given an invaluable insight to the Roman world and may claim to be one of the richest archaeological sites in the world, according to Ancient History Encyclopedia. Pompeii has an interesting history, and today we will discuss Pompeii before, during, and after the Mount Vesuvius eruption. So to start, let's talk about how Pompeii was before the eruption. Pompeii was a very well-established trading center in the Mediterranean. According to Western Australia Museum, shops of all kinds line the bustling streets of Pompeii. The shopping in Pompeii was world-class for its time. Pompeii was like the main trading power of the Mediterranean, and the most popular items were wine, bread, and produce, which was especially onions. The contests Pompeians enjoyed were ultra-violent even today's standards. So Pompeians loved gladiator fighting and like fighting to the death. They would also put like extreme animals like tigers and stuff in the ring with them. And for an audience that liked less violent things, there were theatrical performances performed in the amphitheater that the gladiators performed in as well. According to the Western Australian Museum, comedies and rustic farces were performed there, as well as mime reenactments of mythological scenes. So this was before Mount Vesuvius, and Mount Vesuvius erupted in 79 CE and changed the lives and environment of Pompeii forever. According to the Ancient History Encyclopedia, on the morning of the 24th of August, 79 CE, a tremendous bang signaled that the magma that had been building for over thousands of years had finally burst through the Mount Vesuvius. Most people did not leave Pompeii. They either didn't think that it was that important to leave, that they would be alright, and a lot of the wealthy actually stayed because they're afraid that people would steal their belongings if they left. Then, in the late afternoon, another massive explosion rang in the air, sending a column 6 miles higher than the previous cloud. When the ash fell, it was much heavier stones than in the first eruption, and the volcanic material that smothered the town was now meters thick, according to the Ancient History Encyclopedia. The ash was so thick that it basically asphyxiated the people who stayed. According to the Live Science, most victims died instantly as the superheated air burned their lungs and contracted their muscles, leaving their bodies in a semi-curled position to be quickly buried in ash and thus preserved in detail for hundreds of years. So if you look at the pictures of the people who stayed in Pompeii and ultimately ended up dying, they are literally positioned in the way that they were at the moment that they died. So some people are laying down, some people are curled up, some people are hugging their loved ones. It's actually quite sad to look at. Mount Vesuvius destroyed everything and took many lives, and it changed their environment forever. The buildings collapsed during it. Pumice stones fell down, hit people. That's how they died. They didn't even die from the ash. They died from the pumice stones hitting them in the head. Currently, the major concern at Pompeii right now, so this is today, is the conservation officials must deal with the intersection of increased tourism, the deterioration of buildings in sometimes dangerous state, and the shrinking archaeological and art historical monuments, according to Khan Academy. Although Pompeii can be visited by tourists, archaeologists are really concerned with the constant foot traffic that Pompeii is bringing. It's kind of destroying the history and stuff because it's such a weak state from that volcanic explosion. Recently, archaeologists discovered, this was actually like a couple weeks ago, discovered a horse that was buried beneath the ash, and it still had its harness and its saddle on. The BBC reports that archaeologists unearthed the horse's remains along with 2 other horses, including their bits and pieces of their harnesses during that recent excavation. There are so many things that have not yet been discovered. They're discovering like artifacts and humans and animals every day at Pompeii, and so that's what makes it such like a well-traveled place, but it often gets forgotten about because it's not like a pretty beach or a nice like rainforest. Pompeii might not want to be one of the more happier or beautiful places on Earth, but it definitely holds a lot of history and has a lot of fascinating things that have not yet been discovered there. Pompeii is one of the more forgotten places, so I hope that I enlightened you today on the history of before, during, and after Mount Vesuvius explosion. So next time you think of Pompeii, I hope that the first thing that pops into your mind isn't, where's that, or I have no idea what that is. So I hope that I enlightened you on a little bit of what Pompeii is and the history of it. So thank you for your time. Are there any questions about the very historical city of Pompeii?